Hello YouTubers, a long time since I've last updated, sorry it's under my eyes. A long time since I've last updated. Basically my last song, Kalinsky, was about my friend who has AIDS. I think that the attitude towards AIDS is disgusting. And, you know, the way people discriminated for being this and that, and, you know, people being accused of being slags and, you know, all this stuff for getting it. I mean, what about people that are born with AIDS, you know? You know, my friend wasn't born with AIDS, but even though he acquired it, you know, it's not the fact that he slept around, if you get what I mean. It's like, he didn't do all this stuff to get AIDS, and, he doesn't sleep around. But he's only ever had 2 partners, and, you know, so it's kind of a sensitive issue. I want to address 2 things in this post. The first being AIDS, people's attitudes to that, and the second being racism. On YouTube, I haven't encountered much racism, you know, but out of school, yeah, a lot of racism. I think it's wrong, first of all, to categorize someone by the colour of their skin, because it's something as trivial as, you know, hair colour or eye colour or something. You know, what makes skin colour any different from those genetic variations? I don't see why, you know, a black person should be stereotyped as like this gangster type, you know, media projected image of what a black person is, and that's not true. Because, you know, I know black people, I know lots of them, and, you know, every one of them is different. You know, no 2 people are the same as you can't define a white person, or like, I don't know, an Italian person, or a Spanish person, or a Chinese person, whatever. You know, your race doesn't define what's in here, it only defines what you look like on the outside. And again, I put that down to image and how it's judged in our society. You know, if you're, you know, pretty, or whatever, if you want to call it pretty, people have different ideas of what is and what isn't, but the general idea of beauty is pretty much universal, and if you are good looking in this world, you will probably get more respect and more attention, sadly, than, you know, if you're not physically as, I don't know. It's like, myself, I don't rate myself as unattractive. I don't rate myself as overly attractive. You know, I'd rather be in the middle somewhere and not have to live up to one or the other, you know? I can't stand it when I hear people moaning about the way that they look. You know, it's when you yourself see nothing wrong with it. It's like when you always get the person that says, I'm fat. And, you know, they're really thin, and you get the person saying, you know, oh, I'm stupid, and I can't do this, I can't do that. And the fact is, if you don't believe in yourself, you can't do these things. And it's finding the balance, really. You know, I used to be so depressed, because like, every time I look in the mirror, you know, you see things that you want to change about yourself. These days, it's easy to do so. You know, you've got plastic surgery, you've got all this other stuff, and you know, you see things you want to tweak, you have a certain image that you want to get, and if you don't have it naturally, of course it's going to depress you. And the trick is, even if you can't accept what you've got, you know, find other things in your life that mean more to you than your appearance, because I self-confess to being an image-obsessed person, you know. Obviously I'm image-obsessed, otherwise I wouldn't put all this on my face, I wouldn't, you know, but it's my way of expressing what I think and what's the person that's in here. And obviously in my case, the person that's in here doesn't match what you see entirely on the outside, and I know I'm not the only one that's like that. So I think transgender people are interesting because they have bits of one gender and bits of another, because, you know, even if they feel one inside, they've had to live as the other on the outside for so long, that I believe that every transgender person keeps a bit of that with them, which makes people all the more special for being trans. Again, back to the image, you know, makeup can change the way you look, and I discovered that it could change the way I looked. And I also discovered the evils of dieting could change how you look. A lot of people point out I used to be a lot chubbier a few years back. And yeah, I admit that I did get a little obsessed with dieting and shit. So, anyway, I've gabbled on and on and on. Back to the subject of racism. I think it's wrong, but in England, I'm not sure if the story is different in America, but in England there is, in some regions, a sense of if you are English, you are white. And that's what I've been, through experience, that's what I've learned. I've had racism abuse, before because, I'm Jewish. I wasn't born here, I was born in Tel Aviv, Israel. And, some people's attitudes to that is just purely ignorant. And, I was raised here, I have an English accent, I was brought up in English culture. Even though I don't identify myself as being, British on paper, everything else about me is pretty much British, I've adapted myself to that way of life, and then to be told you don't belong here when you've been raised here from pretty much, age 3, age 4, it's not on, really, is it? And, I don't feel any less, well, I do feel less British, I suppose, but I don't feel I have any less of a right to be here because I'm not illegal. I'm not an illegal immigrant or nothing. And so, and even if people are immigrants, from different countries, what kind of sort of attitude is that? If someone was to come to this country to tell them, fuck off back home, it's not nice, is it? Someone's spent all their trouble coming over here. They all know your language. I mean, if you hear a French or a German person speaking English, you don't think it's a big deal, If you think about it, you don't bother learning their language. We're all lazy. The most part of us don't learn another language, and, I know a few languages, but, it's just pure ignorance, I find. So, anyway, what else could I talk about? So yeah, racism is just mainly ignorance, I find. Blindness. And in our society, I've learned that there aren't many like-minded people to myself who seem to be able to see all these things from an outsider's point of view. Because, I've watched people my age and I feel more like an outsider than a part of it. And I suppose, in a way, that's a good thing, because you can observe it and you can sort of learn from what mistakes they're making. But, on the other hand, would it be better to be a part of it? Or wouldn't it? Because, I've never really fitted in. Even before I started all the image experimentation, it's makeup and stuff. Even before then, I always felt different. And I remember colouring in this chart in, I think it was year 2 or something. And I coloured myself in red and everyone else in green, and the feeling has not changed. And even then maybe I was feeling completely sort of separate, because, I'm an only child as well as being different, as everyone can see. It interests me also how people react to a person of a different culture. It was proven that a person is more likely to trust someone who they recognise as being, Caucasian, English, than they are to trust someone who's from a different country. And I think it's interesting you get places like, Bradford and stuff, where you get whole communities of people from different countries. And I think that, some British people think that's a bad thing. I don't. I think that's a good thing, that people can come over here and spread their culture. And I think before long, if we want to solve all these wars and shit, we've got to start accepting our differences. And although, you may not, different cultures may not agree with the Quran or the Torah or the Bible, you just got to accept that at the end of the day, we're all human beings, sort of, no matter what religion you are, no matter what colour you are. And I know you've heard all this before from various other people, probably. But the message is, it's true, if we don't love each other, then we can't get nothing sorted. and the wars will carry on. There'll be more deaths, there'll be more bombings, you know, terrorism will get worse. I think I've rambled on for quite long enough, but basically the message of this video is don't judge from the outside, judge from the inside. And, you know, even if someone's like a different race to you, it doesn't matter. Take it as a learning objective. Learn from them, learn from their culture. Don't just sort of stick in your own little box, because, you know, it's a boring life, and if you want a boring life, then have a boring life. But I don't.